Hello? Hi. I'm sorry. Don't think it's good to start off with an apology. I was gonna say I'm sorry for not posting this earlier because it's already January, but we're gonna try not to apologize for things so much because a lot of YouTubers I watch constantly apologize, and I'm like, stop, just be you, do yourself. That doesn't make any sense. Do yourself? Maybe not that far. So today I wanted to talk about my absolute favorite reads of 2022 and my total flop reads of 2022. There were some of those too. And I love a good bit of balance, you know? We have to take the bad and the good, so this is just all one video. I have 7 of the best books that I want to talk to you about that I read last year, and 7 of the worst books that I want to rant about. Of course, this is all my opinion. You can have a different opinion. That's okay. We're all friends here. That's alright. Ibu, don't bite that book. So sorry if you can hear the air conditioner. I just said I wasn't going to apologize for things. If you can hear the air conditioner, it's because it's incredibly warm. My first favorite of last year is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I've seen some quite polarizing opinions on this one, but I was instantly enthralled. Vampire pun. Unintended? Intended? I don't know. It's there. This is a retelling about the Bride of Dracula, the Bride of Dracula story, mythology sort of thing, and it uses this fantasy tale as a vessel to talk about domestic abuse and violence in relationships, and how you can kind of become trapped with the person that you love. The writing is peak literary fiction, and it feels like a love letter to survivors of abuse. I found it really incredibly validating to read, and it is a book that I will cherish for probably the rest of my life. I love it. I'm gonna keep coming back to it. Also a super short, easy read. Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I thought I would never ever find a Greek mythology retelling to rival that of Ms. Madeline Miller. I was going to show my Song of Achilles, but you could only see the tiniest bit of here. But that was until Jennifer Saint came along and changed all of that. Oh my goodness. I have talked about this book in a previous vlog, but I still cannot get over just how heart-wrenchingly real and realistic the characters feel in this book. At least the main characters, when you get their perspectives. Just women. Oh. Ariadne in this book has such like a modern woman's mind. Like, she's really easy to relate to and follow along with and root for. And I felt for her every step of this journey, even though I know this myth really well. I've studied it before. It really was super duper fresh with this retelling. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I think this might be my new favorite series. It is a fantastic blend of dark academia and occult fantasy set in the modern world with just like a splash of mystery, and it comes together so well. But a fair warning, okay, before I get too ahead of myself, it does have a slow start. The author does not bother to bombard you with huge lore dumps about how the magic and fantasy elements of this world work. And I kind of appreciated that, honestly. I was like, okay, so we're going in blind. That's okay, because it's an adult fantasy, you know. So I definitely felt like I wasn't being treated like a child that needed everything to be over explained. And I was kind of like, okay, we'll just get into it. We'll just go with it. The first 150 pages ish, kind of, was a little bit of a slog for me to get through though. But then it starts to get going, and it really gets going. Really does. Did anything I just said make any sense? Like, did that come out of my mouth correctly in the right order? I don't know. I love this book. It's very exciting. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. There's Charlotte, right? I got that wrong so many times. Hot tip, it's free with an Audible membership. Just so you know. Yeah, I remember I wasn't very impressed with the movie version of this that I watched, at least. I'm sure there's like a bunch of different versions, but the one that I watched, I was like, okay, I get why the Bronte sisters have this reputation for being like super depressing and everything. I was like, this just makes me feel sad. Like, I don't really get it. But the book, oh, the book was so much more. It's a beautiful fairy tale about this young girl's struggles through her unique point of view. And the writing is like truly magical and does really feel like you're being told a fairy tale. Also, there are some things that people be like, oh, that's not very realistic. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a silly little fairy tale love story thing, all right? Get over it. So if you're wondering which classics are actually worth the read, this is top of the list. Top of the list. You will not believe it. I have just sat here looking at my notes for this video. I have forgotten to put on my very favorite book of the year. I haven't put it on this list. How did I do that? How did I forget that? It's not I'm Glad My Mom Died, but that is the next one that I wanted to talk about. How did I forget this? This is ridiculous. Girls with mommy issues, get ready for this one. It's a real roller coaster, yes. Oof. I also recommend the audiobook for this one because it is read by Jeanette, and I love when they have books that are read by the authors, especially if they're autobiographies. But I will not be reading the Prince Harry one. That seems like a little bit too much for me. This was actually my one and only non-fiction read last year. Sorry. But it did make me want to go out there and try more autobiographies, memoirs, and things. Again, not the Prince Harry one, because I have heard enough! This book is everywhere. Everyone is kind of talking about it. But as someone with a difficult relationship with their mother, it was really heartbreaking, but also really comforting in a weird way. I don't know, very, 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 very close to home. It hit really close to home. But overall, I would honestly recommend this book to anyone. Straight up. Read the trigger warnings though, because it gets heavy. I wrote my notes for this last night at like 2 in the morning, so that's why I'm getting confused and I don't know what's going on. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This one really covers all of the bases for me. It's a bit of period drama, a bit of romance, a bit of magic, a bit of heartache. If you don't know, this is about a girl who no one remembers, no one can remember her, and her kind of survival through time, because she's also basically immortal. This is a fan favorite for good reason, okay? V.E. Schwab knows how to write great fantasy, in my opinion, writes some of my personal favorite fantasies. The way that the world is described through Addie's eyes are just really unique and really magical and kind of like breathtaking, gorgeous, all of those sorts of things. It's really fun. It's really fun and heartwarming and cozy. I usually get a little bit frustrated with time jumps in books, but this one was just a really fun concept. Honestly, I could read stories about this girl all day. I don't have my hard copy, by the way. I actually listened to this on Audible, and I am getting a hard copy from my friend. It's a delayed Christmas present. Very excited about it. When I get my hands on it, it's going to be annotated to the nines. That is, without further ado, because I talked this up way too much, Babel by R.F. Kuang. The Necessity of Violence, An Arcane History of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. Yeah, that's all you need to know, right? Literally, I can't believe I forgot this. This is my new favorite book of all time. right up to the #1 spot, shared with Warrior Cats. Have you ever had the experience of finding a book and being like, oh, okay, this was written for me? Somehow I am the target audience. I am the target demographic. Someone has written the perfect, most enjoyable book for my tastes personally, somehow. That's how Babel made me feel. It follows the story of Robin from his home in Canton to Oxford to study translation, which is used for alchemical purposes in this world. This is dark academia with an emphasis on dark. It is steeped in realism. It forces you to question how we live with ourselves, living in this comfortable world that is built on unjust and unfair treatment of others. And that is something that I think anyone in the modern world of the last few hundred years at least needs to ask themselves. Okay, the huge part that etymology plays in this book, I understand that can be a little bit intimidating or off-putting for some, but I am living for it. I majored in linguistics, so I'm like, this is what I mean when I'm like, this book is everything, every single part of it. Oh, mwah. Arv Kuang is an absolute genius for this one. It's also a book that is steeped in philosophy and big philosophical questions. I get how that can be daunting for some, but I was just in awe, okay? This book actually changed me as a person. I am forever changed. Thank you, Rebecca. Now, from that high note, we're gonna go way back down. I'm gonna talk about the flops of last year. Starting off with The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. But this book was like so hyped for me. I heard so much about it and I was so frustrated at how bad it was. I was like, are we reading the same thing? Are you serious? I'm gonna try really hard not to spoil this book or like any book that I talk about, right? But it's basically a fable, like a little life lesson, you know? Like it feels like I could get the same experience out of reading a cheesy fridge magnet. That's about the amount of impact that it had on me. If you got something out of this book, I'm genuinely really happy for you. But I have been to too much therapy for this. I don't want to be therapized by a book. Like, I am really upset about the fact that Matt Haig tricked me into reading a self-help book. Like, I did not sign up to read a self-help book. And it was boring. Sorry, it was just boring. Anyways, The Other Husband by Catherine Croft. Okay, I thought I'd pick this one up because it was free on Audible and I'd run out of credits, so I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I love mysteries, right? I love mysteries. This is the only book so far, thus far, that I have ever rated 1 star. I don't like giving books 1 star because usually I can see some sort of redeeming qualities or I can understand why other people might like it. I just personally didn't. Not in this one. Can't imagine anyone enjoying this book. It was free and it wasn't worth it. Like, genuinely, I like to be reimbursed for my time. It's a mystery where these 2 couples decide to do a little wife swap for the night, and bad things happen. Their entire lives fall apart because that's a terrible idea. The writing is awful. The plot doesn't make any sense. And it still manages to be really boring, despite, like, it's kind of like a spicy premise. Like, they could do something a little bit spicy with it or whatever, and it's just boring. And then there was, like, of course it's a mystery, so then there's, like, the big reveal, and I was sitting there like, that's it? Really? That's what we've been waiting this entire time for? And then the book just kind of ended. So, yeah. Sorry. Capital B Bad. The Atlas 6 by Oliver Blake. So I read The Secret History last year, and after I read that, I was like, oh, okay, I see what Atlas 6 was going for, but they just failed miserably. I know it's gonna be my hot take, and it's okay. Again, it's okay if you enjoyed it. It just really wasn't it for me. Atlas 6 is another secret society gathering to discover hidden knowledge and protect it, etc., etc. And there's a bunch of new people that are chosen, and they all have superpowers, and they're also all massive assholes for various reasons. Seriously, I think I liked about 1.5 characters throughout this entire book, and that's being very generous. Also, because they're all such massive assholes that could stab each other in the back at any time for their own personal gains, while the perspective shifts between them, they all sound really, really similar and samey, and it gets really boring and really old really fast. I think it started to get interesting in literally like the last couple of pages. I was like, oh, okay, something's gonna actually happen. And then the book just ends. And I had to be like, am I going to read another one of these? Book of Night by Holly Black. This was immensely disappointing from Holly Black because I absolutely adored the Folk of the Air series, and I was so excited to learn that she was putting out an adult fantasy novel. This book follows our main character, Charlie, who's a real rough and tough gal who's also a thief and also a con artist, and she's so messed up and messy, but she's trying to like be on the straight and narrow to like be good for her sister and turn her life around, but she just, badness just follows her everywhere. And she also lives in a world where shadows have powers. That's the fantasy element. It's the modern world, but shadows have powers. I feel like Holly Black's world building is really, really good. So I think if we had her set in a different place that wasn't the modern world, it might have been a little bit more interesting. I don't know what happened, but Charlie is really boring and kind of annoying as a character. Something about this tough girl act wears thin very, very quickly for me, especially in a more adult setting rather than like edgy teenager, because she's acting like an edgy teenager and you're like, grow up. I actually read Ninth House after I read Book of Night, and I thought Alex Stern is Charlie Hall done right. I feel like they're the same sort of character, but I feel like something about Alex's character it makes more sense to me. This one did manage to squeeze 3 stars out from me because towards the end, it actually did start to get a bit more interesting. I will be checking out the second book of this one, of this series, I believe, because there's another character that I found their story is actually really interesting, and I want to hear about it more. And I'm really annoyed that we don't just have the book from that person's perspective, because Charlie really bugs me. Man, I'm so glad I don't actually physically own any of the books that I didn't like. Go me. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'm gonna get so much shit for this. Okay, hear me out. I really like classics. I love classic literature, okay? It's a fun thing that I like to do, to read all the classics and get through it. But I really don't understand what draws people to this one. Like, genuinely, I want to understand. Please, if you enjoy The Great Gatsby, tell me what you enjoyed about it, because I feel like I'm missing out. I genuinely feel like I'm not part of the cool kids club, and I'm missing out. It's like, maybe I just don't get it, but I really found all of the characters obnoxious and annoying. I didn't care about them. Like, I love bad characters, like naughty characters and unlikable characters, like the ones that you hate so much that you're just like, I want to keep on hate reading about them. That means you care. I didn't care enough to hate any of these characters. They were just annoying. The plot was boring to me. I'm sorry. And I really couldn't glean any sort of core message or like takeaway from the story that kind of made me think or anything. I was just kind of like, okay, guess it's over. Guess the message was Gatsby is really not that great after all. Ooh, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Of course, I had heard a lot of things about Coho before starting this novel, so I was really excited to see what I would think for myself, you know? Being like, okay, is it actually terrible? It actually is a really strong start. There is like a spooky kind of meet cute between the protagonist and her love interest. But he's married, but his wife is unwell. She has to finish his wife's new book from his house for some reason. This book also managed to squeeze a respectable 3 stars from me purely because it is a page turner. It's very, very easy to read. The writing is very gripping, easy to take in and easy to grasp your attention. Also a lot of like suspense as well, great at keeping the suspense up. However, the actual content is less than savory, if you ask me. If this was any other book or any other writer, I'd be like, oh, it's because you're supposed to hate everyone in the book and you're supposed to be like, ew, that's disgusting. But from the things that I've heard from this author, I don't think that is the case. I think you're supposed to like these people, and I'm like, you all suck. Yeah, what really sealed its doom for me was the ending. The ending was so bad. No spoilers, but the ending to this book might as well have been, and it was all a dream. Ooh. Or was it? Ooh. I hate that shit. That's it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out. That's what happened. My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. Ooh. Just thinking about this one makes my skin crawl. Oof. This is a mystery / romance where a cute girl goes on vacation with her brother that she's weirdly close with, and then discovers a body / murder. Obviously there's been a murder because there's a dead body. And a super cool tattooed bounty hunter comes along to sniff her panties. I mean, solve the crime. It could have been fun, and we got this. I really don't like super possessive type relationships. I don't find it cute. I think it's scary when men get overly possessive. It's scary. And also that combined with like the age gap of the characters just really gave me the ick. So anyways, those are my thoughts on my best and worst books of last year that I read last year personally. Please let me know if you have read any of these and have any thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns. I would love to know what your favorites and least favorites of last year were as well. Also, I've already read Hellbent. If anyone else has read Hellbent, please talk to me. I am dying to discuss it with someone. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of negative, little bit of positive feedback. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Mwah!